troublesome. All right, so hopefully this works tonight. It's given me some hints. It might give a little bit of a fight back on it, but we'll see. All right, so last day of dice game design. I will probably tinker with it a little bit more because, to be honest, I came up with 4 more characters. And I feel, okay, I know what their powers are going to roughly be. And I know sort of what kind of look I want them to have. But I haven't really fleshed the rest of it out. And I haven't fully decided on the 4 heroines that I made, if they're all going to be villains, which wouldn't make a lot of sense. I mean, all the female ones are villainous and all the male ones are heroic. Doesn't seem quite right. So I may have to juggle some of those around and figure out where they all fit. And I have to admit, the 4 that I created feel a little more comic book cliche, I guess is how I would phrase it. They're a little bit more in the line with, like, you're going to have a metal skinned hero, and that's all I got for him. I don't have a backstory or anything for that. But even then, it's just sort of like the classic Colossus or otherwise invulnerable metal brick. And so I was like, seems kind of 3-color. And I'm looking for a little more nuanced and interesting character story. So I may revise some of those. I did character design of one of them to be a gadgeteer, a guy who creates gadgets. Just because gadgets play such a role in the game that while I do have the cyborg girl who could be a gadget themed character, that's sort of like part of that character's story. Like a full mad scientist gadget guy feels like he's needed. And then I was playing around with a character design that I was looking at doing, and I'm not sure how to make this one work. And it required going outside my standard model of power sets for the cards to make it work right. Because what I was looking at was, and I'm sure my camera's off target. I'm slouching a little bit here. The character that I was playing around with is one who has the ability to cancel out somebody else's power. Now, I feel like it may be possible for one of the aspects of that ability to be an extra defensive power card. So it's a defense against somebody else's power usage. So that could be the extra power, but the exchange and the anything change powers, I feel like, I mean, maybe it's possible that I could all make them a variant on getting that defensive power. But I also feel like there may be a way to do it so that I could make it so that your opponent can't use any of their special abilities. So the moment if you're playing that character, if you use okay. So what I was looking at potentially doing with this character was I had it both for power removal and adding power. And so I think maybe it might be possible for me to do, for that one, a specialty move where, yes, the extra would be a defensive power die added, but the special or the specific power and ex, the anything power, the second and third power on each character card. For this one, I think maybe I can make it so that the character can lock an opponent's power, and I can make it so that they can recharge a used power on an ally. Because part of the appeal of this character design for me was that this person, like, their only power is giving power or taking power away from other people. Like, they can't punch harder than anybody else. They can't fly. They're not invulnerable. They're not super fast. They can't control fire or water. Like, literally, they're just a squishy, soft, normal human being, except for they could potentially make you a squishy, soft human being if you have powers, or if you're a squishy, soft human being, they can give you power. Their whole thing is their support. They're vulnerable and they're weak, but they can make you strong or weak depending on what they want to do. And I think that would be a fun power set for a game like this. So I think that's sort of where I'm going to go with that one. So that's not a bad idea. All right, so I got that one, and then I have like a standard invisibility and stealth character. So in this case, it would be more of the power defensive dice powers, or the superpower defensive die. So in this case, it would be represented as somebody who can become invisible and mask their sound so that you can't tell they're there. And the power defensive die, or no, maybe that one's going to be more of the ranged defensive, because that one's a dodge die, I believe. I'll have to go back and look, see here what we got. But anyway, so I've been playing around with that. I do want to go back and sort of maybe tweak these things a little bit to get a character story that meshes with that and have a little fun with creating characters for it. I also have the Gadgeteer. In this case, I have the Gadgeteer sort of be... I'm debating either way on this one. I kind of like the idea of a guy who has sort of like a clip-on armor pieces that perform different functions. So a modular character, somebody who can clip on all sorts of gadgets. And I feel like what I want to be able to do there is potentially have that character special abilities be to draw a gadget card and use that gadget. Basically, I want that character to be able to stockpile gadgets. I'm not sure yet how that'll work in gameplay, and I think that's going to be one of those things that's going to be tricky. Is I'm going to have to play test it to see how it fits in the end game here. But the reason I say that is, if I have that character's special abilities to draw another gadget card, if every one of his 3 powers is in some way getting a new gadget, then I'm gonna burn through the gadget deck fast. So I may end up adding more gadgets to the pack, because I did spend a little time considering some of the gadgets I wanted. And so it'd be things like a shield, a portal for teleporting kind of thing, tractor beam for grabbing things, a ray gun to attack at range, strength for attack at close quarters, a cloak for dodging, um, some kind of gadget that's going to get rid of the skull and crossbones die face, the super effective hit, or vulnerability found, and then a hologram projector, which could be another sort of dodge effect, so that you can disguise or produce duplicates of yourself, a glider, which I'm not sure how I'm going to frame that one. That may be a thing where I have to look back over and say, like, the glider might convert ranged attack die, or the use of ranged attack dice to be used as both ranged and close quarters combat. And then I was playing around with a couple ideas. I came up with the idea of a card called Lightning Rod, but I can't decide if this is going to be an object that projects an energy attack, like a power attack, or if this is something that draws power attacks to it to drain them. So it's sort of, I'm not sure yet on that one. But so I've got 10 right now, and I'm not sure if I use the idea of a gadgeteer hero who has the ability to draw more of those. I think it depends on how often a gadget die is likely to be rolled in the course of a 5-round game. Because if you're rolling dice during a 5 mission game, and each mission has 3 turns to it, so you got 15 turns of gameplay. And if 1 out of 6 die rolls brings up the option of no, you'll have 6 dice that could roll a gadget, and each one of them has a 1 out of 6 chance of rolling a gadget. And then the question of whether or not somebody picks that gadget up or lets it go back into the player's hand for a reroll. So I don't know how often in a 5-mission game you will draw a gadget card. Now, I feel like if that was the only way gadget cards came up, 10 might get you through. But if you have a gadget-based hero that 3 times per mission has a power that lets them grab and use a gadget, that may change how many we need. And a gadget-themed hero, it's also important to keep in mind that a gadget-themed hero is likely to use gadgets up as fast as they grab the cards. And so I got to figure out if that changes the way, like, how many uses is a gadget card worth? So this is a mechanic I hadn't really considered yet until I was playing around with this idea. So the idea that you have somebody who acquires a gadget, is it a one-use item? Or is it something that you hold on to and it's taken away at the end of the mission? Or is it something that once you have it, you have it? Maybe that's something I need to include on the dice or the cards is how many times you can use this before it's gone. Maybe. Maybe for special gadgets. I think overall the basic rule should be that there should be a limited use of gadgets. Like you use it and it's gone. But maybe the gadgeteer's ability allows them to keep a gadget. Or double how long they can use it. Maybe they only can acquire 3 gadgets, and in order to get a new one, they have to get rid of an existing one. That might be the way to go with that one. That's a little tricky. So the rest of them should be something like a dropped and picked up gadget or a stolen or swiped gadget, unless otherwise specified. So like special case scenario gadgets where you do a mission to break in and steal a device. Stealing that device, that could be a gadget card. And once you have that gadget card, then somebody gets to have that gadget card to carry over into the next mission or for the rest of the missions in the series. So those would be special gadget cards. But all others should be treated as a consumable. You use them a limited number of times before they're gone. But the gadgeteer, his special abilities are going to be that he can hold on to and reuse gadgets as if they are his power score. There you go. I think that one works. I like it. And it sort of makes it easier to make it like a that's I feel like that's almost my new favorite character. Cuz like you acquire a gadget card like a portal or a shield or a ray gun, and if you get like those 3 gadgets, they become your usable powers during a turn or during a mission. So you get to use one of each one once during a mission, but you have them again for the next mission. Those are your new power set. Unless you want to discard, say, the portal one for a different power set, like the anti-skull and crossbones or something like that. But that gives you the ability to have a character whose power set you get to pick and decide. I like it. I like that one. All right, so we've got the gadgets kind of figured out. I do kind of want to build, like in Dragon Warrior and Dragon Quest games, the items have sort of like a specialty name, and like the Titan's sword or something like that. And then they have a description, forged by elves in the realm of such and such for the purposes of defeating dragon type monsters, such and such. Like that sort of thing, I kind of want to be able to give that little bit of lore and mythology and world building to each of these gadgets. So that's sort of the next part of fleshing it out a little bit more. I've got all of the parts to make it playable right now. The rest of it's storytelling and design and play testing and tweaking and adjusting, iteration on the rules to make sure they fit and do what I need them to do for the gameplay. So that's sort of where I am at this now that we've sort of finished the game design on here. And I'm kind of interested in writing the stories of each of the characters to make a sort of a series, not a web comic, but a comic series where it's the origin stories of each of these characters and a little backstory of the events that the time period and the world that this all takes place in, and maybe even specialty comics for the mission cards. Like maybe more particularly the linear stories, the hero story and the villain story set that I chose that are 5 missions long each. Doing a comic that tells those stories a little bit. Maybe 1 or 2 comics, I don't know. I think it depends on how I do it, but yeah, that would be one of the goals, to make this a little bit more interesting and unique as a dice game. Because I have to keep coming back to remind myself that that's what this is. This is a dice game. When I set out to make this game, that was the goal. A dice game, not a card game, not a board game, not a video game, not a role-playing game, a dice game. But I did it sort of my way, a story-based, character-driven, world-building dice game. I think it's unique enough that it's a distinctive game from others out there. So that's sort of where I am tonight. We're finishing off game night here, and that's my tally for the night. Tomorrow we move into product design, and I have no idea what I'm doing yet. So tomorrow I think is going to be, I'm going to spend some time brainstorming tomorrow during the day, and then at video time is the last round of planning and figuring that out. And then I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to make the next 2 weeks happen with the food-based category for the first week in July. I have recipes that I want to do. I don't know if I have the ability, time-wise or resource-wise. Because last time I did recipes, I spent more in a week on ingredients than I generally spend in 3 weeks on food. And my budget's already tight right now for going to the convention. And then the next week after that, well, actually, let me continue on the food one for a second here. Last time I did a cooking show, it was all right. I feel like there's a more concise way to do that. And I also had considered doing this in a different way. And I might do a compromise. Last time I did a cooking show, the cooking show was each recipe I did 4 each night. Don't want to do that. This time around, if I did 3 each night for 7 days, I could get the same number done. That's fine. The problem I'm coming across now is I would rather do one recipe in a nightly video, but I'd also thought about doing these as blog posts over on my Left Quiet. What was the can't even remember the name of the site. That blog that I set up for posting the games when I can finally figure out whether or not I'm legally allowed to do that. I almost say Tinder, but that's not what it is. It's does it start with a T? I can't remember. My brain's gone. It's not Twitter. It's no, it's not Facebook. What was it? Dang it. I can't remember. We still here? Okay. I also want to call it TLDR. That's not what it is. All right. Well, that's unimportant. That I may go post recipes up there, or I might post them on Twitter. That's not a bad idea. So I can post recipes of 2 recipes a night, or maybe all 3 per night on social media, but only cook one live. Because I thought about demonstrating how you could do a food blog. So that's sort of on my mind. I might just do that. And then I might pre-record the recipes and post them or like the videos, and post them as premieres. That way I can be sure we're not going to get signal loss and sections of it cut out. And I can do more concise edited style videos to a degree. So I may look into doing that. And then this next week is going to be video creation week after food week. And what I've been playing around with that is I think because I will be traveling for a good portion of that, I may pre-record and release those as premiere videos for at least the first half of the week. I will likely be in California from the 10th to the 14th. And so I won't necessarily be able to get a internet signal where I'm at, and it may make it difficult to do that. So having a pre-recorded one ready to go up at those times, I think makes more sense for me. And what I want to do for those is 7 types of video making experiments. So one of them is going to be more like a slideshow. One of them is going to be some motion effects on slideshows. So if you've ever seen some of those like top 10 videos that are out there where like top 10 superheroes and they show you a still image from like a comic book, and that still image slightly moves across the screen, and then they do a wipe with a transition effect and go to another picture of that character. Those are oftentimes really just fancy slideshows with narration over them. And so doing something like that style of video is one of the ones that I want to do. And then I was also looking at slideshow, transition slideshows, a sort of I sort of play on stop motion and using my cell phone, getting a small, low resolution video image and just using that as a corner video image for like reaction videos or like using uh, product photography and some simple editing software, do some interesting effects where you have a window within a window with details in different areas. And then a sort of like a podcast stacking. So you have like a multiple windows with small resolution video, but multiple people or objects being recorded, and then those mini windows arranged on the screen for a particular purpose. And then doing more of I want to travel again and try to pull off a recorded OBS uh, program where I can switch between cameras and try a couple tricks and techniques that let you treat it sort of like a multi-camera setup that allows you to do more with less. So those are some of the ideas I have, and so I want to kind of shoot videos for them. And part of that is I know this laptop with this camera on it is gonna crash the moment I try to do some of those live. So for whatever reason, there's that conflict when I try to do some complex things with this. Like whenever I point that camera at this screen or anything bright in color, freaks out. So, so down in the description, I could lead links. Yeah, I need to get better at my description game. I've been trying to pay more attention to it. So you may notice on some of these videos now, like for a while, it was just titled and the video, and I never had anything in the description. I'm trying to add a description to most of them now. I'm trying to be better about it. There should be a feature if you go to my channel at some point. There should be the about page, and I probably should update that again. But that should have links to things like Twitter and Facebook and some of that stuff. I'm not sure if I put that in. I'm pretty sure I did that for at least this channel, but I'm not sure if I've updated it since I got things worked away. Tumblr. That's this. That's the blog. There you go. I knew it was something. All right. So I do need to be better about doing the find more. But I also feel like at some point it'd be fun to do here are the things that I've made so far on this channel video every now and then as just a summary of where we are and where you can find the things that I've made. I need to be better about that. Like I do know that some of the things that I've been working on, while they could be released right now, I'm still unsure about what I'm allowed to do. I have the distinct feeling that I'm not allowed to link to any site where I sell anything in the YouTube descriptions. I think they get a little uncomfortable with people selling things through a YouTube channel. But if I use that to link to a website that's for me, then the website can have all the links. So having one central location where I can do that is something I've thought about doing. So I've thought about building a website for this channel. I might still have the domain name for Roving Jack. I don't think I fully built out the website for that yet, but I don't think I have anything for inspired content, which I think that one's actually probably more important to build up, because this is the one where I'm actually more likely to have a need for a central location that points you to all the things that I've created and made. So if I end up, creating a t-shirt line, or when I get my games made so that you could purchase parts or whatever for them, I can link to where they are. Like this dice game that I've been working on, that's sort of best done by getting sets of dice made through the Game Crafters website, and I can set up a location where people can buy my custom dice sets for the game and a custom deck of cards. That would actually be pretty reasonably priceable over there. But to link people to go over there, better than having it as just a link in the description of like this week's videos, I think it would be conducive to me to have my website linked in the videos, and on my website say, like, you can order this game that I made here, you can order the pattern for my backpack design over here, and such on and so forth, so that it's like I do think that having a central location built for that makes the most sense. How to set up the website, because if I remember correctly, inspiredcontent.com was taken, but it may be open now. I don't know. Those things change from time to time, so I'll look into it. I'll see what I can do. I do agree with you. I have to do better at making things available for people to check out, and that's for merchandise that I make. That's for reading samples or recipes or where to order things that I've done, and Patreon and stuff like that. I mean, I think I need to consolidate it better. Right now, I'm just having a blast doing the creation process and sharing the creation process. But yeah, I do take your meaning that I need to be better. Now, as far as linking this channel to Roving Jack, I'm somewhat resistant to that. I like keeping the channels separate. As much as I have been talking on here regularly about how it is my other channel, I sort of treat it like my secret identity. It's the other me. But Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, Tumblr, I think those are, I don't do a lot with my Twitter. And to be fair, I don't do a lot with my Facebook either. I'm just generally crappy about social media. I need to be better about it. It's hard work. This is hard work. It's not that hard. It's just something I'm not used to doing. I'm actually absurdly private individual. So why I got it into my head at some point that I wanted to be on video is beyond me. But this is what I'm doing, so I need to step up my game and get a little bit better at doing that kind of stuff. So yeah, okay. We are about 40 minutes in. Yeah, I haven't added a bloody thing. I do plan to, My goal is when I go to VidCon, I want to talk to some people about the possibility of posting images on Tumblr of the board game designs so that you could copy the image of the board, print it out, and make it. Oh, okay, yeah. I'm like, you're in the kitchen? What? No. No, it's I know this is the area that I knew would be hard for me is posting regularly on social media because I'm not good at it. And part of it is I feel like nobody cares that I was goofing around in the kitchen today. Like I don't talk about myself a lot when talking with other people. And I feel it's even more vain and goofy to write out posts about myself as if that's somehow important. It's hard to wrap my head around that that's part of what I'm sharing when I make these videos. For me, like I'm here to play with ideas of making games and writing stories and share the process and encourage other people to do it and create people having fun together in the creation process. But I also have to acknowledge that part of that is building a brand that is part me. And in order to do that, I have to do it out loud. And so I have to make posts on Twitter. I have to make posts on Facebook. I have to get better at posting on Tumblr. And so part of the thing we talked about a while back when I revived my Tumblr for those posts was that I could post excerpts of my writing, pictures of the board games and cards that I'm using for game design, simple, just kind of like how you might be able to play a simple version of this at home, game design, maybe a short video clip from a little bit of video game play. And so I'll be able to, and maybe even audio clips of sound effects and music that I play with. Like it's a site where I can share little bits like that that don't necessarily fit for YouTube. Um, and so like I was talking, I might post each of the recipes that I tinker with over on Tumblr as a recipe with instructions and everything. And so I will probably be reviving that a little bit. Might even in the next 2 or 3 weeks post something there again. My goal is when I get to VidCon to talk to people with more experience about some of these things. Because the trick is if I publish the short stories that I write on Tumblr, I may not legally be allowed to sell them as short story collections on Amazon as like a Kindle Direct or even get them printed, print on demand publishing, because there are some restrictions to some of that stuff. If you try to publish a book that has appeared for free somewhere else, they oftentimes will not allow you to do that. And so losing the opportunity to compile short stories that I write, like for the next story writing sequence, I wanted to write a series of Ray Gun Gothic, Rita Ray Gun style short stories and collect them into an anthology of Ray Gun Gothic short stories. And that would be awesome. But if I publish excerpts of them or one or two of the stories in completion on Tumblr, I may not be able to ever use those stories again for a book for sale or something like that. And likewise, I'm not sure what the rules are for posting on Tumblr, the board design and the rule set for access granted, or the Rita Raygun's thrilling interplanetary adventures storytelling game. If I publish an entire deck of cards as a series of pictures that you can print out and cut out and then play at home, I may no longer be able to hold the rights to release that as a product for sale later. And that I don't want to give to Tumblr. I don't want them to own the rights to that. And I don't want it being out there in public to prevent me from having control of what happens to it in the future. And so that's the reason why I've held off on posting more there of the things I've created. But there is and possibly, but that's even trickier because when I publish my own website, Tumblr may not have the rights to those things. But like I said with the book, even if nobody else has the rights to those things, them having been released for free at any given time means that Amazon won't let me publish them through them. And so it's sort of like, even if I post my short stories on my own website, I don't have the rights to publish them in a book through Amazon for sale after I do that. And I don't know how much of that translates over into other projects. Now, there are some ways to work around some of that, where, like, when I finish a good quality prototype backpack design, I can take as many photographs of the backpack as I want and post those on my website, and they don't count as releasing the designs or product to the public. And so I still maintain the right to be able to resell those. Now, with the dice game or the board game, I can post pictures of the game being played. I don't know that I can go to the level of posting images of cards or boards with the intent that you could print them out to play them. I think I have to maintain those as just in gameplay. You can see the board and the cards and everything, but never set it up so that you have the ability to produce it yourself. Because as soon as it reaches that point, it's considered Creative Commons and therefore not possible for me to profit from, I think. And I have to talk to people who have done more of this kind of thing to get a better sense of what the actual laws are. But I fully intend at some point, like, it may be possible for me to post like superhero cards for this game with stick figures on the cards and handwritten directions, and then later to produce the game, make changes enough so that it's not the same game. But I got to figure that part out. I got to make sure that I have that idea right before I do it. And so I feel bad because I want to be able to be posting these things so that people could be playing some of these games already. But that little trick of the legal stuff, that it feels stupid to have to fight this, because these are things I've created, and if I want to share them for free and then offer people the chance to buy a premium version of them, I should be able to do that. And there may be ways to do that, but I have to know what the options are and what my legal recourse is on a lot of those. If you look around, there are people on YouTube who have gotten copyright claimed for music that they created and shared freely being used in their own videos because it's a recognized contained content that the rights to are somehow out there in limbo, and using it requires that you have permission. It's just this whole weird trick. There are people who had their channel demonetized, like completely blocked from posting new videos in some cases because they played music they had the rights to. And so I was like, I've got to be careful when I do this. As much as I want to live in a world where I can create things and share it freely and then do with it what I want, there's legal questions on some of it. And then there's YouTube rules, which are one step beyond legal. Because something might not be illegal for me to do, but I could get my channel taken down from YouTube. And likewise, Tumblr may have some of those same things. And whoever I have my website hosted with might, I could build any number of websites. But if I build a website that was doing adult content, providers can take my website down and refuse to let me have a website anymore because there are rules and restrictions on how one builds a site. And using a hosting service for your website is like, it would be the only thing I would be able to do, because I don't have the ability to have a server where I'm staying hosting my website and guarantee that it'll always be available. Like, you can't have a website that's down for 4 hours a night or 8 hours a night when I'm in bed, where I unplug it and nobody can access it. I can't do that. So I can't host my own website. So if I'm going through a hosting service, I have to abide by their rules. And if I'm using a blogging service like Blogger or Tumblr, I have to abide by their rules. And some of their rules are about who maintains the rights to things posted on their sites. And then there's questions about whether or not I can monetize things after I've posted them for free. So I may not be able to sell through Amazon any books that I publish. And I may not be able to publish any games for sale if I've previously released them for free. Now, I might see if I can contact some people who have done stuff where, like the people who made Cards Against Humanity, I believe they actually had it possible that you could get a free version to play early on, but they still sell their game in stores. And I may see if I can reach out to them and find out what information I need to know to be able to do what they did. And if they would be willing to just, inform me a little bit of what's that process was like. But yeah, I know that's something I know I need to do, and I want to do, and I want to get to a point where once I've got that information figured out, I can then from then on release everything I'm doing somewhere online that people have access to it. Because to me, that's half the fun of doing this. Not just the creation process, which is immensely fun, but also here, play with these things. Tell me what you think. If you have an idea for changing these and doing something different with them, I'd love to see what you do with it. I mean, one of my favorite ways to describe this to people is H.P. Lovecraft wrote some of his horror fiction, and then he said to all of his other writer friends, Feel free to use my characters and settings in your stories. And they did. And it built this whole Lovecraft mythos, the whole mythology of the Lovecraft style of story. And it's part of the reason why we know who he is now. His stories were just little obscure horror stories, but 7 other people at least wrote stories in his settings with his ideas, and because they shared in that creative process and they freely allowed each other to play in that playground, more people learned about it, more people discovered it, and more people learned to appreciate it because other authors used it too. And that's the thing. It's like any product, any toy you make, the more people you let play with it, the more it gets known. The more people get to share in the experience. And the more people get to create their own thing that can inspire me based off of things that inspired them that I created. It's like the process of creation is an energizing and fulfilling thing. Yeah, and I'd be curious to talk to him about some of that. I do think he's one or two of his things that he's done, he's played the whole song in his pieces. But I think most of what I've seen have been clips of his pieces. And I'm not sure he's ever tried to sell something that he's released for free. So like some of his videos where he makes a song using some weird thing. He makes the song, he puts it out there for free. I don't think he's ever tried to compile them in an album that he tried to sell later or listed them on like the Apple Music Store or anything like that. I don't think he's ever posted them there, but I haven't checked. I'd like to talk to him about what he does, and I do think he's going to be at the convention. I don't know that I'll have the chance to ask him any questions in person. He might be on one of the panels that I want to go look at. But yeah, so there are people out there that I can talk to and learn a little bit about some of this stuff. But even as I go through some of this, if I get to a point where nobody has an answer for me, I may just end up putting stuff out there, even if it means I can never sell it. I may just hit the point of frustration where, like, screw it. I'm not looking to make a fortune on this kind of thing. I mean, some of the other ways I've looked at potentially making money from stuff is making classes for like Skillshare and Udemy. So I've thought about doing something like that. But I mean, it's a side project at this point. I'll figure it out. I do think I'll probably post on Tumblr for Food Week. And I could do like I don't want to call it advertising for the other things that I've made. So I could do, if I build my anthology of short stories, I could do a cover design, the name, and the back of the book blurb about it, and maybe even a table of contents or something like that. I could do advertising like that, I think, and I'd be okay. So I might do like even for like the board games or the tabletop games, do artwork for the games and the description of the game, maybe a picture of the game being played, and then figure out what my additional options are. So, I mean, there are ways I could potentially do some of this. I need to figure it out. I need to be better at my social media. So, like, I fully well know that I should be posting links every time I post a video to Facebook and Twitter. I don't do that. That's my own bloody fault. I would do better if I did that. I guess it's just something I have to work on. All right. So we are at an hour. I will call it here for tonight. I will see you tomorrow for product design planning. And then I will work on that this week. And then next week is, I guess it's technically this week because 2 minutes ago here it was midnight. So we are technically on Sunday. So today I will, later today at 10 p.m., 10, 10:30 p.m., I will start the process of planning the product for the week. I have no idea what it's going to be yet. I have no clue. I am totally lost. We'll see what we end up with. I'll be curious to see what I do. All right. Thanks for joining me, and take care and have a good night. Alrighty, so end stream.